your body thinks that it's still sunlight.
Entrepreneurship. You cannot build a business without having people around you that not only are part of your team.
It's about is they purchase this sofa and they take it with them across the city, across Toronto.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Restless Millennial podcast, the voice of the motivated youth. I'm here today with Hyslop and Roslyn McLarty of the gistnewsca, which is a sports news website aimed at teaching women's sports. Well, I guess it's kind of like that, but I'll let you guys explain a little bit about what it is. So go ahead.
Sure. So thanks for having us on today. We're really excited about it.
First podcast.
Yeah, very excited. So The Gist is a digital sports news business that is revolutionizing sports content to empower women. So really the idea came up in February 2017. Roslyn, Jacie, who's our other co-founder, and I were having dinner at Roslyn's takeout and a couple bottles of white wine, and we were chatting at dinner, and I started, talking about the Leafs because I am an avid sports fan, and I started talking about a goal in the previous night's game and started to explain why that was such a big deal, because at the time when we were having this conversation, nobody thought the Leafs were going to make it into the playoffs. Everybody thought that it was going to be
the first year.
Totally.
Like before Matthews or after
first
year after Matthews.
Yeah, exactly. So it was the first year that Matthews was actually playing for the Leafs. It was the first year with Babcock behind the bench, and everybody thought that it was supposed to be a rebuild year, right? So our expectations were down here, and then all of a sudden come February, it was like, no, it looks like we're actually going to be making the playoffs. And so for whatever reason, the prior night's game was a big deal that way, and so I was like, guys, I think we might actually make the playoffs. And so as I was explaining this to Jacie and Roslyn, both of them kind of had a light bulb moment kind of go off in their head and said, hey, that would have been super helpful for me to know when I was at a client meeting today and when I was talking to my friends at lunch. I didn't really know necessarily what was going on and felt left out of the conversation. So really from that conversation, we looked at it like, why aren't Roslyn and Jacie connecting with the way that sports news is being delivered right now, and what can we do in order to make it accessible to the female millennial?
So what's different about the Gist content opposed to like going to like TSN or something like that?
Yeah, so I think there's a few core things that are different to it. So I think the first one is the tone. So it's really written the same way that we would be talking to someone about sports. So it's written as if you're talking to your witty sports obsessed girlfriend, which is really what's happening. The second is it's really accessible to everybody. So we deliver sports news to our readers are already scrolling. So that's their Instagram as well as their email primarily right now. And a lot of them are online. So our website too. So that it's really easy for the on-the-go female who doesn't have that much time to watch a full game or to watch a full episode of SportsCenter to get the gist on everything that they need to know.
It's such a cool name.
Thank you. And then finally, I guess the last couple of things would be it's contextualized and it's curated. So we spend the time watching hours of sports games, watching hours of SportsCenter, scouring the internet and everything like that, so that we can provide them the need to know information and none of the stuff that they don't need to know. Mm-hmm. But we also provide always the so what. And right now in sports, a lot of the sports media companies are really targeting a male audience, and a lot of them are targeting an audience for an existing sports fan. So somebody like myself, which can be really exclusionary to a large group of people that might have an interest in sports, but because they feel like they don't have a necessary level that maybe you need to have with SportsCenter or Sportsnet or whatnot, there isn't really someone who is filling that gap for them. So that's really what we're doing in the contextualization. And then I guess the last thing is really providing a female perspective. Right now there's only 14% of sports journalists are women, which we think is far too low. And that kind of reflects why so many more men tend to be sports fans and why so much of the content tends to be focused towards men. And so we talk about things in a different way. We talk about different things. We provide different nuggets of information. We focus more on human interest stories and stories that affect us as women. So motherhood and maternity leave, or something more social with everything with Take a Knee. Providing
yeah,
different
and especially
on
lately
that.
with sports, there's a lot of those kind of stories coming out too. So it
Yeah.
gives you guys good content, good
Absolutely.
material to report on for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I'm also interested in is you guys come from different like backgrounds. Like you were an accountant before this, and you were in insurance, right? So was there any kind of like learning, because you guys went from that to being journalists? What kind of like learning curves were there in terms of making that kind of transition, I guess?
Yes. So in terms of writing experience and in terms of our roles, so within the Gist, Roslyn is really in charge of everything: technology, finance, operations, legal,
so you guys are, you
everything
don't do
like
write
that.
as well.
No,
No.
I don't write.
Okay.
No, so
I kind of take care of the other side of business.
yeah, exactly. Roslyn
see.
makes sure everything is rocking and rolling, and the platform of everything, and making sure everything's
numbers,
working. Yeah, Jacie is in charge of our growth, so our growth in terms of monetization with our partners, but also growth in terms of subscriber growth and getting our subscribers up on the newsletter, as well as different events and engagements that we run. And then I'm in charge of the content, so I'm writing our content as well as managing contributors. So to your question with respect to the writing, when I was in high school, I was super close to going to journalism school or to business school. Like, I thought I wanted to be Jennifer Hedger on TSN, and I opted obviously for the business route, which I'm so glad I did, or else who knows what, we would have never met each other, and who knows what had happened today. Yeah, who knows? Maybe not. Very competitive. But I always made sure, because I really enjoyed writing, to take writing courses in university and things like that, so that I could practice. And then with respect to the Gist, we're really big on feedback and practice. So before we actually launched in December of 2017, we had 5 weeks, I think it was, of beta testing across 100 people, and we did mock newsletters to them for 4 or 5 weeks as a way to get feedback, to see what they liked and what they didn't like, and what they liked about the tone and what they wanted to see more of, etc., etc.
So
and then we hosted focus groups.
500 people, you said?
100. 100 people.
Yeah.
And how did you choose those 100 people?
Friends, family, people in our target demographic, people we hoped would give us honest feedback, because we were going out and doing this thing, so we needed
Nice. And how did you
Yeah.
go about like spreading the word at first? What kind of things did you do to kind of get people, teach people about the Gist?
Totally.
Yeah, the first thing we did was have a big launch party. So after the 5 weeks of beta testing and kind of taking into consideration what everyone was saying, and we were ready to go live with the weekly newsletter, we had 250 people, which was just like people we knew, people in our network. We got our friends to bring colleagues, friends of friends, and we threw this big party at Shopify offices.
Oh, wow.
Where we had, we kind of scraped together a group of sponsors and attendees, and we had an open bar, we had food, we did a big presentation where we explained what the Gist was, and what people could expect from us. And the feedback from that was really good. And I think we had our first 500 subscribers after just that party.
Wow.
And then after that, we found it was really just word of mouth. And especially like at the beginning, it was mostly, it was our own money. So the marketing budget was not huge, but we were finding that people liked what we were doing, and they're forwarding the email on to people at their work and their friends. So that was really, that happened organically at first.
Yeah.
Nice, and that's really interesting. And something like sports is, people are interested in sports, so you already have that interest there. It's just, how to find the people who would be interested in this kind of niche. But so I'll get into that. Why would a female non-sports fan subscribe to the Gist, and what do they get out of it?
Yeah, so that's, I kind of used to identify with that. Not a non-sports fan, but not like a huge sports fan.
Yeah.
And for someone like me, before something like the Gist existed, I just found that the whole world of sports was something that was really intimidating and overwhelming. Like, it felt like, everybody else knew like all this stuff from like trades and contracts and injury, and that's on top of just like how the league is organized and who all the teams are and who all the players are. So for me, going to like a TSN or a Sportsnet website, it just was like,
Overwhelming.
it's so overwhelming. You don't really know where to start or what you're interested in, and it feels like the articles and all the content could go on forever. So for me, or for someone like me, like the first thing that is really valuable that the Gist does, is what Ellen touched on, is tell you what's important. What are like the top 5 things you need to know about what's going on, what are the things everyone's going to be talking about, and what are the things that are interesting as a place to start. And then if you want to learn more, on our website, we provide a ton of educational resources. So we have guides for every sport. So we have the Gist guide to soccer, to football, that kind of tells you how the league is organized, who the big teams and players are to watch out for, the rules, some trivia facts, just something to give you a base level of knowledge. And we also have that for events, so the Just Guide to the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and so on. And then we have a glossary where we just trying to find every single sports term that someone who maybe doesn't know about sports would need. If they're like, oh, everyone keeps talking about this triple double after the basketball game. Like, what the heck is a triple double? So you could go on our website to find that.
And you said it's a weekly newsletter, right? And you get the gist of it in the weekly newsletter.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And so how has the response been from your subscribers so far? I know you touched on that a little bit when you were talking about your launch party. But has the content been working in terms of like teaching sports to the people who don't know sports already?
Yeah. So we have a very engaged reader base, which is great, and we've been getting actually a lot of customer or reader feedback lately, which has been awesome. And overwhelmingly, people have been super supportive and positive of the Gist. We have people sliding into our DMs on Instagram saying how happy they are that we exist and letting us know that the content is really resonating with them and feeling like they're learning. We have people emailing us and saying, hey, this is a great idea. I just wanted to let you guys know that you're really onto something, and I'll support you moving forward. And we have some people reach out to us that say, hey, I was actually able to join the sports conversation at work today with my colleagues, particularly my boss, and she is a big baseball fan, and I was able to connect with her in a way that I wasn't able to connect with beforehand. So that's when you could really tell that the content is resonating and that people are using it in whichever way that they want to as a tool in both their professional as well as personal lives. And then I guess the other side of that is that for a long time, a lot of our growth wasn't through any paid advertising or paid marketing. It really was all word of mouth and referrals to people, and there wasn't a week where we didn't see our subscriber base grow.
So you and your co-founders were both part of the corporate world. I want to get into this a little bit before launching the Gist. So what should people know before from making the transition from the corporate world to doing something on their own?
For sure. So I think we'll both answer this because we have a bit different I guess perspective a little bit on it. I think for myself, being an exceptionally avid sports fan, the industry is something that I've always been interested in getting into. It truly has been one of my loves my entire life. I don't remember not watching TSN every morning. And so for me, when I was thinking about transitioning out of corporate and into doing the Gist, it just kind of made sense. All of my friends, family, my coworkers were all like, you know, you'd be dumb not to take this opportunity to do this full time. And when I initially, you know, spoke with them about the Gist, they were all incredibly supportive because they said, you know what, Ellen, this is right up your alley. You get to write and talk about sports, you get to empower women through sport, and you get to start a business, and that's using your business foundation and your business skills. That said, transitioning from working in a very structured corporate world where you're used to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks and you know you're coming in 9 to 5 is completely different now. So one of the big things for us, and me in particular, I guess, and Jacie and Roslyn as well, is just you know, being more strict with yourself with respect to personal budgeting and being more strict with respect to timing and what you're able to do, and just living within your resources, because your resources are constrained more so from a timing perspective as well as a financial perspective.
If you guys don't mind talking about it, how have you monetized? I'm just really curious, and if you don't mind talking about it, I think it'd be something interesting that the readers, listeners might want to know.
So we're in the process of doing it now. Our first big monetization stream was actually just our events. So we put on events in addition to having our online community. We have an offline community, so we'll put together sports viewing parties where we have a certain number of women come out, and we'll, like, our first one was the Super Bowl, and we had 60 women come out, and they paid for tickets, and that's how we monetized. But we put on we created this like fun and safe space for women to watch sports together, and we've done that with live viewing parties, the TFC, and World Cup finals, and we're having a live hockey draft. So events was kind of a bigger one for us earlier on for that cash flow. Now we're transitioning to advertisements in the newsletter. So because we can offer advertisers access to a really niche demographic, female millennial is pretty attractive. We can charge for sponsored placements in the newsletter. And
Because it doesn't cost anything to get the newsletter too.
No, it's completely free. Yeah,
Completely free.
That's great. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We really want to make it accessible
Yeah,
to
and
empower
that
women.
helps with the authenticity of it as well.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
Exactly.
think that's great. And you said, so that's right now that's your focus in terms of
Yeah,
the sponsored posts.
Yeah, is monetizing the newsletter. But we do plan on expanding into other channels where I think there will be opportunities to either, again, advertise or charge for subscription once we get there. But
Once
that's
you get
plans
there.
for the
Yeah.
future, yeah.
You guys will get there. And
Yeah.
you guys have all been doing this for less than a year already, so the progress is... What do you think is like the biggest key to your progress so far? What would you think that is?
Our biggest key, if we had to name one, if we had to do one, say one thing.
Just one thing. If you had to... One reason why the Gist has been successful
Can we
so
each
far.
have one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right?
So I think for me, the one reason why we've been so successful so far is I think our team's grittiness and passion for wanting to get stuff done and wanting to improve all the time.
That's what I was going to say too.
Okay, good.
You can
On
tell
the
you guys
same
are-
page. Yeah.
And that actually goes right into my next question because you guys are best friends and you started a business together.
Yeah.
So
we
based
did.
on that, like what kind of, are there any challenges with that? Because I know it's kind of like a touchy thing. You know, a lot of people go into business with their best friends, they get in arguments, they get in fights all the time, and then they get out of business with their best friends. So I assume there are some challenges there. How do you handle that?
I think we're lucky. So Roslyn, Jacie, and I have known each other since first year university. So we're going on to 8 years of knowing each
Oh,
other,
wow.
which is kind of weird when you actually go back and look at it. So it's actually been so much fun being able to work together and also having that background of being friends. We really know each other's strengths and communication styles and where to leverage different people's strengths and where we can work together to get things done. And we also appreciate what's going on in each other's personal lives as well as our professional lives, so that there's a really nice balance between everything that we're doing. I think one of the challenges is because we are such good friends, sometimes we could be very chatty, and
It's easy
sometimes
to
we
get
get
off focus,
sidetracked.
right?
Yeah, exactly, or we can go off on a tangent. But Roslyn is really good at bringing us back to focus and bringing us back to earth and what we actually want to be focusing on. So having somebody on the team that is willing to put that hat on is super helpful.
And your other co-founder as well, you've known her for a long time.
Yes.
So all
Years,
first year,
yeah.
you guys all met in
Exactly.
first year.
Yeah, and I think we were really lucky as well. Like we'd never had plans to go into business together, but the different strengths that we bring to the table are quite complementary. And that's not something we planned, but I think that we're just really lucky with. So we honestly haven't really ever experienced, like, I don't think we've ever fought.
No.
We have disagreements about the business, which is like I think a good thing, and you need to have healthy disagreements in order to take it to the next level, because
Totally.
you do need to be challenging perspectives and whatnot, but never to the point where anyone felt any hostility or feelings hurt or no raised voices ever. That would never happen.
So if you had to give people words of advice of how to work with their friends on a project, you'd say just kind of be understanding and know each other's strengths and weaknesses?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think there is also something to be said about your dynamic and also really trusting each other and knowing at the end of the day that a person is acting in the way to only better your business. No one is ever trying to, take it down, or everybody is trying their best, and we all trust that everybody is trying their best, and we are all so passionate about the Gist that we can trust each other to go do what we think is right.
Yeah, we're very aligned on the vision. I think that's a big one, is that everyone needs to be aligned on the vision, and if they're not, then that's going to create problems. But when you're aligned
Totally.
and you have passion, then everyone is working their hardest and playing to their strengths as much as they can to make it work.
So
Yeah.
how has this experience starting the Gist impacted both of your lives? And I'll ask each of you this question.
For me, it's a huge change. I've always been someone that's been very by the book. I was an accountant in my previous life. I worked at I have my CPA designation, and I worked at PwC providing financial services for mergers and acquisitions. Very
Very different.
very different. It's
From a very serious industry to a very fun industry.
Yeah.
Well, it can be fun if you like numbers. I assume you do.
I do. I'm having a lot more fun now, but
Yeah.
it was very, very structured, and very much there was a clear path ahead, and you get promoted at the same time every year, and people tell you what to do.
The
And
media industry isn't like that.
no, and especially at a startup.
Yeah.
At a startup, it's all over the place, and I feel like the skills that I was using, I'm using such a small percentage of those, and a lot of the time I'm just learning new things. So it can be uncomfortable, and it does feel a lot more risky, and there is a ton of uncertainty. Like, we don't know where we're going to be in 6 months, what we'll be doing, if we'll still be successful. Like, so for someone who's like used to having a plan all the time, to going to this risky, uncomfortable, uncertain place that's like full of volatility is a big difference. But it's overall just like.
How did you kind of handle that challenge early on?
I don't know. Like, it helped having two good friends that I was working with, and kind of just learning how to prioritize my time and be willing to learn to get to the level of being able to fulfill my role in the business. But as I was saying, like, overall, it's so much better. Or I'm a lot happier, and I feel despite all the uncertainty and risk, I do feel a lot more in control of my life and my destiny and my happiness. Despite all of those other things, I think being able to go into work every day and work with your friends on something that you're passionate about and that you believe is making a change in the world, and where you get to learn and grow, it just lets me feel really like happy and present and on a good path.
Awesome. And how about yourself, Ellen?
Yeah, so I think I echo a lot of what Roslyn said, I think. I do think that all three of us are a little bit more type A in personality, and we're a little bit more risk averse. And I think when people initially think of entrepreneurs, they initially think that they need to be maybe a little bit more creative or a little bit more risky. But what's interesting is actually that I find that because we all do like being in control, and because we are all type A, we're actually able to excel in a place where we can have a stake in every single thing that we do. So as much as there isn't that structure, beforehand we had to live within it. We had to play within our lines. Whereas now we have this massive playground, but we get to choose how we build that playground, which is actually super exciting and even more fulfilling, because we can create the structure ourselves.
Creative control.
So it's just totally different that way. And I guess for me, the biggest change is just considering myself a journalist and a writer, which I still struggle with. It's kind of weird. I don't know that, like, that. Yeah, I don't know. So that's a little bit different, but to Roslyn's point, I think it's probably been one of the best decisions, if not the best decision I've made in my life ever, getting into business with Roslyn and Jacie and starting The Gist.
Go into business with your best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something you're passionate about.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're not passionate about it, don't do it.
Yeah.
But anyways, what does a typical day look like at The Gist? I wanted to ask this earlier when you were talking about how messy the startup kind of atmosphere is.
Yeah.
So maybe you can kind of reflect some of that in your answer.
Yeah, sure. It totally, no 2 days are the same. It totally depends on what we're focused on at whatever point in time. So like for me, I could be like sitting in front of an Excel spreadsheet like I used to be in my prior job doing analysis for The Gist, or we could be out on the streets trying to sign up subscribers and sell The Gist to
Really?
people.
You guys go out into the streets?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Big banner.
We do it all. Oh, yeah.
Stopping people.
You bet.
With your earphones in.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's the hustle life.
What do
Exactly.
you say to them in that instance?
Hey. We've got a spiel.
Yeah.
We've got a
spiel
spiel.
right now.
Okay, so normally we have
Spot.
a nugget of something to draw them in. So, for example, we were at Trinity Bellwoods a couple of weeks ago, and it was a hot night, so we had freezies. So we would go up to someone and say, hey, how do you feel about a free freezie? And then we'd say, so we're actually with The Gist. We're a digital sports news business that's written by women for women, and we send out a weekly newsletter that gives you the gist on all things sports. So making it quick, easy, and fun to stay up to date on sports news. in exchange for this freezy, we would love to get your email so that we can add you to the subscriber list.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some people say no. They either
Yeah.
don't want a freezy. Some people don't want the freezy, but they want to subscribe, which is great. But a lot of people are open to subscribing and at least giving it a chance. And then it's up to the content in the newsletter to speak for itself if it's something that they are entertained by or if it's something that is a need or want in their life.
Awesome. Do you have any future plans in the near future for the Gist? Any like big parties coming up? Any special content you've got going to be released soon or anything?
When are you?
Spoilers.
Yeah, there's a lot in the oven, I would say, if that's an actual phrase. So I guess the closest thing on September 18th, we are having our inaugural hockey draft, and it's a live draft at the One King West Hotel, which is super exciting, and that's really stemming from us all finding that we were left out of sports pools at work and with our friends and whatnot because we were women, or other people didn't feel like we knew enough. And so we really want to provide a space where people can join into these pools and these drafts and participate for a chance to win a prize, but also participate and know that this is a place to learn judgment-free, have a great time, and actually have the opportunity to participate. So that's coming up soon. Roslyn is actually going to China soon.
Oh, wow.
We were selected to be part of as one of the teams of the DMZ. So right now we're a part of the DMZ, which is the #1 university-based incubator in the world. And so that's where we work out of. And we were selected as one of the companies to join them at the World Economic Forum in China. So Roslyn's going to be going to that in September as well, in a week.
In a week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Way off
Where in
China.
China?
In a week.
It's in Tianjin, China,
okay.
which is close to Beijing.
Oh, close to Beijing.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is very cool. And then from a content perspective, just yesterday, we actually released our NFL pool.
Nice.
So every Wednesday, we slide into everybody's inboxes at 12 noon, and we give them the gist on each of the games that they need to know, and it's a standard pick'em. So basically, all you need to do is choose which team head-to-head you think is going to win, and then the Monday night game acts as a tiebreaker, so you have to choose the correct winner on Monday night, and then choose the right amount that they're going to win by, and they read the email and then they submit all of their picks through Facebook Messenger, so it's actually super easy to do and
Awesome.
really fun.
What's the prize for the winner?
It changes each week.
Okay.
And so because we know we get additional subscribers every week, we have different prizes. So this week's was 5 classes to Bar 3, which is a bar class or bar studio in downtown Toronto. It's one of our favorites. And then we have a couple more prizes coming up with different athletic companies and different food and juice companies that are upcoming. And then moving more so, I guess, into October, we're looking to crank up the amount that we're putting out content in terms of newsletters as well as features on our
Are you
website.
guys thinking about hiring more writers yet?
Yes. So we have.
If anyone's interested.
Yeah, if
no
anyone
one
is
wants to write for the
interested,
Gist.
we do get a lot of emails with respect to people wanting to contribute and going through those emails like crazy right now. So we are always on the lookout for contributors that would want to assist with us in terms of pumping out more content from a website perspective, also newsletter, social media perspective, as well as what Roslyn mentioned earlier and getting into other delivery channels. So looking to see if maybe they'd be interested in podcasts like yourself or looking into video and whatnot too.
Nice. So before we go here, I just want to ask you about your favorite sports and your favorite teams, just so the viewers out there know. I know,
Okay.
I know we talked about this off air, but
Yeah,
let's let the
for
audience hear
sure.
about it as well.
Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
To play, to watch?
Play to watch both.
Both? Okay. My favorite sport to play is soccer. I grew up playing competitive soccer. Actually, we both did, and we've played soccer together as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. It was a big part of my life growing up. To watch, I love basketball.
Raptors fan?
Yeah, big Raptors fan. I just find like the games so exciting, whether you're watching on TV or live. The fact that they're not wearing equipment, you can see the emotions. You kind of identify with the players. You can understand how they're feeling. And basketball, I find like intersects with pop culture. It's really interesting.
It does with Drake especially.
Yeah, it's with Drake, exactly. And it's just like something that the people in my life are watching, so I like to connect with them on
A
basketball.
lot of questions I see from non-sports fans about basketball is, why does the last minute take 20 minutes? It takes so long, the last
Good
minute of
old.
basketball game.
It is in the FAQs
Oh, yeah.
actually, so we
Is
have
it?
that in
Why
our
does the last minute
FAQs.
take so long?
Well, do you know do you want us to answer this, or are you just asking that? As
Oh,
like
no,
a
no,
rhetorical
no. I was
question?
just-
Okay,
I was asking
yeah.
if that question was okay.
Yeah, it's in our
It is.
FAQs. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And yourself?
So similar to Roslyn, soccer growing
Soccer.
up was definitely my sport. Love it. Still play it today. Completely passionate about it. But watching, I really love football, and in particular, I really love NFL football. I think that there's so much strategy behind it because there are so many players. What each player is doing on the field is so important, and what each player is doing is completely different, and if one player doesn't do their job, it completely affects everything else on the fields. And there's so much strategy behind it. They have to memorize hundreds of plays, they have to memorize hundreds of defenses, they have to be able to think fast in order to change up the way that they're going to run their route or the way that the quarterback is going to throw the ball based off of literally just looking upfield and seeing how the other team has set up their defense, and same with the defensive captain to see the way that somebody has set up their offense. There's just so many things to think about, and there's so many players. It's insanely strategic, and it's so fun to see a huge group of people actually be able to effectively execute
See,
on
I'm a
it.
little different. I'm not a big football guy because I like fast-paced sports. And
So
that's
you
why
like
I love
hockey?
hockey.
Yeah.
It's so back and forth.
Yeah.
Never stops.
Totally.
And the way the Leafs play, it's it's just
Just wait for this year.
all offense. I know you're a
It's
Leafs
gonna
fan,
be
you're a
so
Sens fan,
fun.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be a fun year for us Leafs fans, but a horrible year for Sens
Yeah,
fans.
that's
Well,
okay.
maybe they'll surprise us.
Something
You
could
never know.
change, yeah.
Something could change. Well, anyways, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Ellen and Roslyn, for being on the show today. Is there anything else you want to let the audience know before we go?
You can find us at www.thegistnews.ca or on Instagram at thegistnews.ca.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys. And remember, keep hustling.